So if there was one habit that always intrigued me when I started my self-improvement journey, it was journaling. Right? Journaling has always been this really I've always found it quite cool. I don't know why, I think I've always liked writing. And so the idea that you can have a bunch of journals when you're 30 and you can show them to your kids this is what I was thinking when I was 16 and blah blah blah. I've just always found it quite cool, right? I found the idea of journaling to help you on your self-improvement journey quite cool. Today, I want to introduce you to the 5 best ways to journal that will greatly serve you on your self-improvement journey. So the first one is actually something I call expertise journaling. And expertise journaling is essentially where you find a journal, a thick journal. I don't know where mine is, but it's kind of thick. And in it should be every single idea, concept, thought related to a topic that you want to be an expert in, right? If you want to be an expert in philosophy, then you should most definitely be familiar with the work of famous philosophers, right? Anything related to philosophy that an expert should know should be in that book. And so for me, I've actually started to make a journal dedicated to self-improvement. So anything related to self-improvement that I should know about and that should be in that book is in that book, right? I've just started, so there's only a handful of pages, but I want to be an expert in self-improvement so I can help more young men become better versions of themselves. And I'm only going to get to that stage if I have somewhere where I can store information that isn't my brain, right? Because you can't handle all of the information that an expert should know into your brain, right? And so essentially you develop and find new ideas in your brain, but you store them in your journal, right? You basically just can't store everything up here, so you store it in the book. And so anytime I'm about to record videos and before I go to sleep at night, I look at this expert journal, right? So I watch self-improvement videos, I watch long-form podcasts, I listen to podcasts, and anytime I have an idea, I write it on a Google Docs on my phone, and then I translate that to the journal. Anything that an expert in self-improvement, which there really isn't, right? So I'm like, wow, maybe I can become an expert in self-improvement, but I find the idea that just knowing a lot about a subject that you find fascinating, and I absolutely love the idea of improving your life, right? And there's a shit ton of different habits out there that you can use to increase your life quality. And so having all of those in a journal at my disposal at any time is something that I don't know, I just find really, really cool. And so find the topic, right? It doesn't have to be self-improvement, it doesn't have to be something pushed on you by other people, but find a topic that you're really, really fucking interested in, right? If it's the gym, write down Arnold's workout and Ronnie's workout, right? Write down the diet of famous Olympians, right? Go on YouTube and find a podcast where Sebum talked, right? Anything related to the gym that an expert in building muscle and diet and in overall gym should know should be in your book. The second way to journal is actually to do something called a soliloquies. So a soliloquies is essentially a conversation to yourself, and you're prying your own brain to get to know you better, right? You're having a conversation with yourself in this journal so that you can get to know yourself better. Like I said before, I don't want to disclose my exact age. Maybe I'll do it in the future, but I'm a teenager, right? And if I start doing this now, in 20 years when I'm in my 30s, I'll have a shit ton of conversations with myself in books that I can look back on and be wow, my character development is insane, right? And I find the idea that you can look back on and essentially track your growth as a person, as a human being, through soliloquies, through conversations with yourself, absolutely fascinating. So I'm just so this is my soliloquies book, right? It's pretty big, pretty thick. It's leatherback, I don't know. And also physical journals, right? I find them pretty cool. Right, and so in here, I've only had a couple pages because I brought this recently, but right at the heading, there's a heading, right? See, square that. And for this, it was how life should be lived, right? And I just thought, right? What is a life well lived, right? What does it mean to have lived a good life? Or, right? You can, you essentially find and think about topics that you want yourself to know more about, or essentially that you want to know what it is you truly think about these things, right? And then you question yourself, right? You ask yourself, why is it that I believe this certain thing, right? Why is it that I always get this reaction when somebody says this to me? And then you do it over and over and over again, and your character growth is going to be absolutely insane. So the third way to journal is something that I call brain dump journaling. So if you're a creator like me, this is going to be really, really useful to you, because brain dump journaling, and even if you're not a creator, you should definitely do this. It's essentially whenever you have a problem or a thought or something comes up, you brain dump it into a journal. You pour out every single ounce of a problem that you have into the journal, and then you try to see what solution you could possibly come up from this. Because think of it from my perspective, right? I make YouTube videos to help you. If I have a problem, or I can think of a problem that I've had, I brain dump it into the journal, and then I think of every single possible solution. That gives me a bunch of video ideas, right? And even if you aren't, or you wish to be a creator, or you wish to help people more, this is really a really good way of translating your ideas, your thoughts, your problems into potential solutions. Or like, think of it this way, right? If right now you're struggling to stay consistent in a certain habit, if you're struggling to stay consistent with meditation, but then you fix that problem, well, in that brain dump journal, you can write down, like, when I was struggling with meditation, I was doing this, but then when I started to become consistent, this was most likely the solution, right? It was because I freed up more time for it. I created a schedule, and I said when and where I would be meditating, or I installed a meditation app, and so meditation became easier. Whenever you have a problem and you've solved that problem, there's always a solution somewhere, right? It may not come directly to you, but out there was a solution to your problem. And if that problem ever arises again, right, if you're not consistent with meditation, then you become really consistent, and like in 5 years from now you're suddenly not consistent, well, you can look back to that journal where you weren't consistent in meditation and be like, all right, when to become more consistent, essentially I just have to follow the steps that my younger self laid out for me.